I build coalitions to tackle some of the world's deepest injustices, is the way I would describe it. So I have 10 areas that I work in, ranging from preventing early death right through to increasing women's leadership. So these are big, audacious global goals where we need to make rapid progress. And I like to build big coalitions of organizations to work together on achieving those goals. I'm talking a lot of organizations. So a good example is the Every Breath Counts Coalition, which is working now to help countries respond to the pandemic. There's 50 organizations in that coalition, and they range from the smallest non-profit to the largest multinational company. So I love getting all these different stakeholders around one table and trying, it doesn't always work, but trying to get them to work together, because when they do, truly anything is possible. So one of the key ingredients for success to get all these organizations to work together is you need a neutral and trusted third party at the center of the whole exercise. And that's the role that I've stepped into, because I'm not competing with anyone, but I'm truly a neutral, honest broker, if you like. And when there's that level of trust, it's amazing what people will do. But without it, if you just have a group of organizations trying to achieve the same goal with no one really, I guess it's a little bit like an orchestra where you have a conductor, and that conductor has to be absolutely on the side of every instrument, no favorites, so everyone has to have a chance to shine. That's the kind of role, and I've fallen into that role. It wasn't something I set out to do, but I truly believe if you can play that role, we can achieve some of the big changes that every country really needs to make. No, when I first started, I thought I was going to be an investigative journalist. So that's what I wanted to do. I think I grew up in Western Queensland in the 1970s. We moved every few years around the state. And if you know what Queensland was like at that time, you saw a lot of injustices. So I can remember as a child just looking around at the world and thinking there's so many things wrong and so many people doing the wrong things. It'd be great to investigate that and sort of shine a big light onto those injustices. So I thought journalism was what I would do. But then I was very lucky out of university to work in politics for a particular politician. He was the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia at the time, Brian Howe, a Melbourne politician. And he was the one really, he had come from the civil rights movement. He was an academic sociologist. He was also a minister of religion. So he brought these rich backgrounds together into politics and really tried to make some big changes. So it was really my exposure to politics, to the good side of politics, a politician who really is there for the right reasons, that I was able to think, rather than write stories, in a newspaper, if you can really harness political power for good, that's when real change is possible. So I decided fairly early on that I wanted to have experience in government, the private sector, and non-profit. So I wanted to be able to see the world from all these different points of view, so I could truly understand differences. And I wanted experience in the US and in China. I guess, already when I was studying there, China was emerging as the major counterforce to the US, and I wanted to see both sides. I think I was already thinking that and maybe this is a great message for young people, we need people to cross into other camps. We need people not to stay put and dig deep into one job or one country, or even one sector. What we need now more than ever in the world is people who with broad experience, who can see the world from all the different points of view and then hopefully find some kind of consensus or find the middle ground. And so I wanted to do that. And my experience in China was profound and gave me a deep appreciation of the Chinese people and their struggles and the way they view the world. And I've had the same in the US. And I would encourage young people just starting out, we have a world that's more connected than ever before, to take a similar journey. So rather than be the kind of person that is in one camp, be the kind of person who understands where everyone's coming from. Because when you have that knowledge and that perspective, you can really start to put the pieces together and have everyone move forward together rather than at loggerheads. You know, the older I get, maybe this is just a function of getting older, the more you think back to your formative years. And I do really think the country you grow up in shapes you in ways you really only figure out maybe when you're older and maybe when you're in another place. But more and more I value the, you know, there, and maybe it's changed now. I'm talking the 70s and the 80s and into the 90s. Australia was such a place of promise. You could really had a great sense of optimism about the possibility for change. Hugely creative place, and there wasn't much inequality back then, so there was this great sense of camaraderie between people. Maybe you're telling me, you'll tell me it's changed now, but I grew up with a great sense of, you know, I think one of the reasons I work so well in coalitions with people from vastly different backgrounds, different walks in life, is growing up in Australia. We're known for being very down to earth, and what you see is what you get, very direct communicators, call it like it is, all those things people have said to me, which are to do with being Australian, you know, have really been, I think, ingredients of the work I've been able to do internationally. So I'm very proud to be Australian, very proud of the culture and of the way we conduct ourselves, the way we do business. You know, on the oxygen, we had some amazing Australians, and Dr. Hamish Graham from the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, Trevor Duke from University of Melbourne. There are several others, Kim Mulholland. So a lot of the researchers in oxygen are Australians, and they have these huge global reputations, but I don't know if it's well known at home. But we relied on them and their work, and they're quiet, like a lot of Australians, they're quiet in there. You know, they don't draw attention to themselves. But we did a lot of that work with Australian research. I'm very proud of that work because, I mean, still today, there are people dying for lack of access to oxygen all across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Our work is nowhere near done. But we had this big coalition and we were able to increase it and really get them all screaming about oxygen. And then finally we got the international, you know, the UN and the international agencies to do something about it. And we're just starting to see now all that support for oxygen come through. But that to me was a real reinforcement, because sometimes you wonder, you know, it's a lot of work keeping coalitions alive, keeping everyone happy and doing the right thing. It's often a very fragile balance, and I was you know, thinking, is this really going to work? But then when we could get all these 50 powerful organizations stamping up and down at the same time, and people actually listened, it reinforced for me the value of working this way. So before this pandemic is over, there'll be many more people, unfortunately, who die for lack of oxygen, but I'm fairly confident that our work has saved a lot of people's lives, thanks to the work of all of our members. So the big dream for the rest of my career is, I think one of the things the pandemic has exposed, and climate change as well, is that we have a world where political power is still built on the nation state. So it's still nations, and political power rests with nations. And we've seen that play out in a really ugly way with the vaccine race, when everything breaks down and it's just nation against nation. Even the United Nations, the UN, is built on top of nations. So it hasn't been as effective as it should have been. I truly believe that we won't be able to deal with the big global threats, whether it's climate change or another pandemic. We're told there's going to be more pandemics. Inequality is another one that's really causing a lot of problems. We need an international architecture that can respond to global challenges. So I think of it like a UN 2.0. So we have to rebuild it. The UN was built after World War II. All those institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, all the tools we have internationally are post-World War II creations. After we come out of COVID, I think we need to rebuild again the global architecture. So we're much more effective at working together when we have these massive threats. I would love to work on that. And to contribute to that. But really the big work will be done by the next generation. That's their job to do, but I would love to give a good start at it. So what has happened now during the pandemic, unfortunately, it's a tragedy that it doesn't just keep happening, because our problems aren't going to go away. In fact, they're just going to, I think, get deeper in future years. So yes, UN 2.0, that would be my next big dream job. The first thing I love to say to young people is don't work for an organization. Don't even work for a particular leader or a CEO or an executive director. Work for an idea. Always work for an idea and track to that achievement of that idea. So pick the issue that resonates most deeply with you in terms of social impact. And most people by the age of, by their teens and older, they know what's they're passionate about. So once you lock into an issue or a problem you want to solve, build your career around achieving that goal, that idea. Sometimes it means you might need to be working in a company. Sometimes it might mean you need to be going to Europe to work in the United Nations. And a few years later, your best place might be Africa, working with an NGO. But if you work for an idea, I think you can't get captured. And the great risk for young people is they get captured on their way to a career. They get captured by an institution, or they get trapped into a set of skills that they can't break out of, or they get put into a box. But and a lot of young people are also very focused on brands. Coming at us from all directions is, this company is the best one to work for, they have the best brand. And I think you should avoid all of that, because to stay true to yourself and not be captured by any institution, I think you need to work for an idea that's bigger than you. So I would say, number one, pick your idea, pick what you're passionate about. It doesn't mean it can't change. You aren't stuck with it for the rest of your life. But if you choose wisely, you can't really go wrong all the time. You're in the service of that greater goal rather than any company or particular leader. We have so much technology now. You can create your own workplace. You can even build your own organization just by connecting with other people. There's all sorts of platforms online now where you can, there's so much more freedom for young people to build their own workplaces, even if they have the courage to do so and the confidence. So I would encourage young people to absolutely have the confidence to believe if they pick the right issue, there's nothing they can't do. Of course, who you work with, the coalitions you build, are critical to that. It's very hard for one person alone to make a huge change. But I think the technology now, and I'm one of those people, I believe in technology for good. So there's a lot of criticism about a lot of the tech we have now, but I think the onus is on all of us who work in social impact to use the tools for good. Because we've used them in the pandemic, we have used all our tools of connectivity extensively. What would we have done without them? So all of these connected tools are, I think, key to social impact moving forward, but we have to use them for good. I'm so happy about that. Thank you so much. You know, it means so much to me to have that from Australia. Truly, truly. Thank you so much. It means so much to have the opportunity to talk about some of these issues, and to have the exposure for them. It's such an amazing thing that you're doing to be able to. Thank you so much. You know, there are so many amazing Australians that work in social impact, and we have a long history. And to give this, it's really a great recognition, I think, of the work of Australians internationally on social impact. I'm very proud to be standing, you know, next to some of those people. I know they've inspired me, and still in the UN they talk, you know, the halls of the UN, the names of Australians continually come up. So it means a great deal to me. Thank you.